That's him right there. There he is. Let's get a shot.
Who's that?
You must be new. That is Bruce Wayne.
Mr. Wayne. Clark Kent, Daily Planet.
What's your position on the Bat Vigilante in Gotham?
Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice is directed by Zack Snyder and stars Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Amy Adams, Lawrence Fishburne, Jesse Eisenberg, and Jeremy Irons, and is the sort of sequel to Man of Steel, and basically tells the story 18 months later after the events of Man of Steel, where we see Superman has become a controversial figure and is being discussed in courtroom cases and on television news, and is considered to be a rather unpopular figure for most. However, he is considered a big, hopeful figure for many other cult followings around the world, and of course this irks a certain individual named Bruce Wayne, played by Ben Affleck, who at this point in time has also got a vendetta against Superman for the events that took place and the fact that many innocent lives died, and so they have a bit of a rivalry going on. But is that what the movie's about? Kinda. So now that the movie has come out, there have been some reviews over the last few days which have reflected negatively on this movie. The movie currently sits at a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. However, if you look at the audience score, which is at 77%, you can see that there is a divide between critics and audiences of this movie. Is it warranted? So let me first start off with all the pros of this movie, because there are quite a lot of pros. For starters, Ben Affleck as Batman, outstanding. This is amazing acting, and he brings a flavor to the character that we've not really seen before, and he does a great job with it. He's a very dark and gritty Batman, something we've seen before, but we haven't seen him go to this level. I understand the fact that Suicide Squad isn't out yet, and the fact that it'll be out in August, and the fact that there is something that maybe happens in that movie that transcends a lot to how Batman is in the present, and I understand that completely, but as of right now, there are moments where he does things where you might not be fully on board with it. Henry Cavill as Superman I liked in Man of Steel. However, I like him even more in this one. He was a very grounded in reality kind of character. Like, there was moments to him where you clearly felt emotion for him, and the fact that a lot of times you're not able to feel said emotion for him in Man of Steel. Granted, he still has a couple of moments where he is kind of wooden at times, but the fact is, it still manages to give a lot more emotional response in terms of what the character is trying to convey. Also, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman is fantastic. You don't get to see her that much. She has a very brief moment as Wonder Woman. However, she is there in some scenes of the movie as Diana Prince, and she does do a great job. Another great performance, I must add, is Jeremy Irons as Alfred. Now, Alfred has come a long way in movies. He's come from the goofy type to the caring type to the kind of sarcastic, caring, and friendly type. And this is definitely the latter of those three. This is the Alfred that you've gotten to know in the comics, and this is the Alfred you're getting to see in the movies now, and that is really great to watch, actually. It's great to see the Alfred which you've grown up with in many ways come to life for the big screen, and that is pretty good. Also, Amy Adams as Lois Lane is fine. She does a great job as well. And I can't say much about the acting. There is one performance, though, which is not good, but we'll get to that in the cons section. But as of that, the acting is pretty good. Also, the score of this movie, oh my god, Hans Zimmer is a genius. In a matter of 4 years, he has managed to compose 2 different themes for the same character, which is honestly amazing to think about. It's amazing how he is able to bring complexities to a character he's already done before that weren't brought in the last time. This is a grittier version of the character, so the score is grittier, the moments are more menacing, and there are harsher notes used on the violins and on the drums, and I think they've done a great job establishing Batman's dark persona. Also, the action is incredible. This entire movie, why are you there in the theater? You're there to watch Batman and Superman fight, and when the final throwdown does happen, it's great. It's easily one of the best battles I've seen in superhero history. It's quite remarkable to see Dark Knight Returns, the graphic novel, come to life on the big screen for audiences to see, and I'm glad we're finally getting to see that in the 21st century. Also, the fact that they've kept it quite accurate despite not having included a couple of elements which were in the graphic novel, and Aside from that, they've been able to do a lot of credit to what elements were in the graphic novel and what they were adding in the movie. And I can't go without talking about the direction. Zack Snyder is a great director in a way. He is not affiliated with the script of this movie at all, so I can't fault him for some of the problems in the script, but I will get to that in a minute. And the fact that he is being able to direct this movie, despite it having so much in it, which again we'll talk about in a second, is the fact that he's able to do it so well that he actually deserves a lot of credit for doing all these things. And he does direct sequences really well, he directs scenes really well, and he does manage to do a great job. Now let's talk about the cons of this movie. Very first, the biggest con of this movie for me was
Bruce Wayne meets Clark Kent. I love it. I love bringing people together. How are we?
Lex.
Hi, hello, Lex. It is a pleasure. Ow, wow, that is a good grip. You should not pick a fight with this person.
this movie had a lot of great performances, as aforementioned, but Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor was definitely not that performance. His performance is pretty crazy. Now, if you read the comics, you know Lex Luthor is a psychotic genius. There are things he does, but the motives behind it are so intelligent. He's put so much thought into them that you have to respect the fact that he is a very cold, calculating villain. However, in the movie, he comes off as just this insane guy. There is a moment in this movie where he's trying to give a speech, and while he's giving the speech, he just keeps looking at the microphone and keeps saying, what was I gonna say? I can't remember. Well, that's not the Lex Luthor I know. The Lex Luthor I know is kind of the guy who considers exactly what he has to say in a speech, knows exactly what to say when conversing with people, and is also a calculating genius behind this entire thing, and does it so well that you can never tell if something is wrong. However, in the movie, you can almost tell from moment one that everyone believes something is wrong with Lex Luthor. And of course, there is, because Lex Luthor has his own evil scheme going on. But again, we're coming to that con in a minute. And the fact that there is so much going on that after a while, Jesse Eisenberg becomes kind of annoying. You kind of want the guy to just get the hell out of the screen. That's not to say he doesn't have good moments in the movie. There are two outstanding scenes from him, and those deserve a lot of credit. But the fact is that those are too few and too short, and I would love to have seen more of that Lex Luthor than some of the Lex Luthor that we got in this movie. Which brings me to the second one, which is the incoherence of the movie. There is a lot of elements in this movie that don't exactly make a lot of sense, and the fact that it does not help the movie, and it doesn't really help the movie at all. It took a while for me to piece the movie together and understand why some things happened. And when I did so, it made more sense, but the fact is that they happened in the first place. The fact that there were these inconsistencies in the beginning of the movie that affected the rest of it in so many ways kind of deters from the viewing experience at times. So when you think about the movie, you can look at it in the light and say, that was actually better than I expected it. But at the same time, your immediate reaction after the movie is going to probably be around the lines of, it was fine. And that sounds about right, because if you really think about it, my initial reaction to this movie was, it was fine. And I still stand by that. It was fine to good. But I think I would have liked the movie a lot more had there been a lot more coherence to the script. The first 30 minutes of the movie, for example, it took me a while to piece everything together and remember stuff which linked to the rest of the movie, because there was so much going on that it was trying to set up so much that some details were actually lost during the transition, and that it kind of affected the story in some ways. That's not to say that it wasn't like that throughout the entire movie, but the parts where it kind of affected future details when they were later brought up. And finally, the third flaw for me was the pacing. Now, this movie is not very fun. It's very grim and serious. It has a very dark, edgy tone to it, probably even more than the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. But that's not a problem for me. The problem is that because it doesn't have the humor, and because it doesn't have all this fun element to it, you want to have a serious movie that works really well, but is also paced really well. Now, while it is a very serious movie and very dark movie, you see a lot of things over here which are very, very dark and sinister and very grim. And yeah, there are moments where you realize that this is not exactly a very child-friendly movie, but at the same time you have to realize that even if it's not that kind of a movie, you should at least keep the pacing correct. But the problem is the pacing takes a lot of shifts. It goes from a slightly fast to a very slow to a kind of faster to a really fast pace into the 2 hours 30-minute runtime, and that can kind of affect the movie. I'm not exactly asking for a really fast-paced movie at times, especially because the movie is not that funny in ways. There is not much humor in this movie. But if you guys remember The Dark Knight Rises, the problem with The Dark Knight Rises a lot of people cited was the fact that the first third of the movie was not that exciting. There was a lot of dull moments to it. But however, not a lot of people sometimes complain about the pacing issues of that movie because of the fact that the movie was still pretty fast paced. It kicked off as a bit of a slow movie, but as the movie went on, it got faster and faster until the extremely fast-paced finale. And I think that's what matters when it comes to a movie like Batman v Superman. You should keep that going, considering the fact that you have things which are going to be tackled in this movie that are fast and quite spectacular to witness, and you should keep that pace going. And those are my main three flaws with the movie. Its pacing is a little off, it's kind of incoherent, I blame some of the script elements for that, and Lex Luthor is really not that great. The rest of the movie, however, is pretty good. It really works really well, and it is a very faithful adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns and a few other graphic novels, and it managed to do the job really, really well. I think Zack Snyder has made the movie that he wanted to make. He wanted to make it for the comic book fans, and I think he's been able to do a great job at it, and I think he deserves credit for that. I'm gonna give Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice a 7 out of 10. I don't think it was as bad as some critics like to say it is. However, I would like to point out the fact that if some critics didn't like the movie, they didn't like the movie. Not everyone has to like the movie. There's a reason for the 47% divide on Rotten Tomatoes. That being said, if you didn't like the movie, it's fine. I thought it was okay, and hence the rating. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.